Fifth meeting of Benton Harbor's Planning Commission. Can I get the clerk to call the roll, please?
Commissioner Archibald. Here. Commissioner Bell.
Here.
Commissioner Henry.
Present.
Commissioner Hensel. Here. Commissioner Marshall. Commissioner Yarbrough. Manager Mitchell, I am here. Mayor Muhammad. Chairman Reed.
Present.
You have a quorum.
This time, I would like to know if any changes or additions to the agenda. If not, I need a motion for approval.
I move we approve the agenda as written.
I'll second it.
Motion is made by Commissioner Hensel and supported by Commissioner Archibald. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bell.
Yes.
Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Commissioner Hensel.
Yes.
Commissioner Marshall. Absent. Commissioner Yarbrough, absent. Andrew Mitchell, yes. Mayor Muhammad, absent. Commissioner Archibald
Yes.
and Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion passes.
At this time, I would like to seek the approval of the minutes for November 14th, 2023. Changes, corrections, or deletions? Hearing none. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Henry,
Oh,
Yes.
Commissioner Hensel,
Yes.
we need to make a motion.
We didn't
to
do the
approve
motion.
I make a motion that we
Oh,
approve the minutes
make
of
a
November
motion.
14th.
Okay.
Motion is made by Commissioner Bell, supported by Commissioner Henry. Continue to,
This is on the agenda, right?
yes,
Minutes.
I'm sorry.
On the minutes, okay.
Let's be there.
Commissioner Marshall, Commissioner Yarbrough, Manager Mitchell, yes. Mayor Muhammad, Commissioner Archibald,
Yes.
Commissioner Bell,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion passed.
At this time, I'd like to open the meeting for public comments. Do you have anyone who makes any comments? Hearing none, we'll close the public comment session. At this time, we have new business, which will be the approval of the meeting dates for 2024. Any changes, deletions? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve the meeting schedule for 2024.
I move that we approve the meeting schedule for 2004.
Commissioner Marshall has made the motion. Do we have support?
I support.
Support is by Commissioner Bell. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Hensel,
Yes.
Commissioner Marshall,
Yes.
Commissioner Yarbrough, Manager Mitchell, yes. Mayor Muhammad, Commissioner Archibald,
Yes.
Commissioner Bell,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion passed.
At this time, I'd like to direct your attention for old business. The monthly applicants report. Commissioner Yarborough is excused for medical reasons. Other than that, all other members are present, except for the mayor.
Only Yarborough is excused. The mayor's out of business trip for the city.
So he's ad hoc. You don't count his absences.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
The update from AEP will not be held. The representative indicated that she didn't have any new updates at this time. So we'll move on to the updates for Project T. We have Mr. Paul Lippens here, consultant for the city and the master plan.
Mr. Chair, and I just put on the record for the commission that the AEP project, I don't know how it got canceled because I told them they had to make a presentation to you so that everybody knows what the project is, and then come back to committee and then go to the commission. They need to go through that process with the entire project, not just for permits. So I'm expecting them to come back here first before they go through the process.
Commissioner Henson.
Mr. Manager, I saw Mona Livingston, the representative, on Friday at the lighting ceremony, and I think she was confused about something and double booked, so that's why she's not here, why she didn't come. But the confusion was over where she was actually going. She was thinking she was needed to go to a committee that she didn't understand when it was, or excuse me, what committee she was going to, at least during that conversation. So hopefully she'll get it straightened out for the next.
We'll make sure she does.
Okay. So Lippens, if you want to give us an update on Project T.
Yes, so good evening, planning commissioners. You recall last month we had a review of the Project T site plan, and at that time, Planning Commission made a recommendation to approve with conditions to be reviewed administratively. The site plan was in pretty good shape at the time of the last meeting, and since then, myself with Alex, the Community and Economic Development Director, and Maurice as well, met with the city engineers and the development team to take care of any remaining conditions, to discuss them and move the project through the city's engineering review process. So at that time, we were able to get some notes with the applicant and bring some of the conditions that were noted at the last meeting to closure. And I'll kind of walk through them and we can discuss, because the motion was to have a report back to Planning Commission. So the first thing that we didn't have prior to the packet being released for last plan was the last meeting was a photometric plan that details that the site will meet the minimum standards for safety. We did review the photometric plan, and at the meeting with the applicant, we discussed that there was no note on the plan that limited the height of the poles to 15 feet, which is a requirement for residential properties in the city. So we find that the fixtures, the minimum lighting standards are consistent with the ordinance, and we're deferring that review of the 15-foot pole height to the engineering approval process. So we believe that condition has been satisfied for the purpose of the site plan review. The other thing that was noted was that easements were needed, or any easements that were needed by the city administration would be granted and approved by the city attorney. At the time of the review, we were not aware of any requests for easements that had been made by any city offices. During that meeting, it was noted that for the abandoned alley on Agard, that there is still city infrastructure under that, and that the city would be requesting easements be placed on the property. And of course, the applicant was open to granting those easements. So we find that this condition can be released, but then transferred to the engineering part of the process. And part of that is that there will be no changes to the site plan, right? So if any changes happen to the site plan, you would have to get an amended site plan as part of the process. But if these details are reviewed as part of the engineering approval and preparation of the construction documents, we don't anticipate any changes being made to the site plan as part of that process. So we're comfortable releasing those conditions from the site plan approval process and having them part of the engineering review of the construction documents. The master deeds and bylaws, we are recommending that this condition, as was deferred to administrative approval, but that we grant them to have this condition met prior to building permits being issued. It can take a fair amount of time to draft the master deed and bylaws. And since everything else is really in a good place, the recommendation is that this condition be met prior to building permits being issued. And we recommend that Planning Commission defer this condition to administrative review at a future date within the time period of site plan approval. Essentially, that means once the site plan is approved, that approval is good for a certain duration of time. And if they are not able to be in construction within that time period, essentially they would have to come back for another site plan approval anyway. So what we're saying is they have to pull the building permits within the time period of that the site approval is good for. And we recommend Planning Commission allow them that time to also prepare the master deeds and bylaws. Essentially, that means that we won't have to be reporting here every month on the status of the master deed and bylaws. We can wait until they're done, and they'll be done according, if you agree with this recommendation, prior to building permits being issued. The fourth was any remaining comments from public engineering, public safety, or the city manager's office be addressed, if any. None are noted at this time. The one thing we did discuss at our meeting where we were initiating the engineering review of the process was that at a certain time, the city was in receipt of some comments from the fire chief. And those comments were essentially related to the zoning regulations that would apply to the property. And since this is a planned development, the standards were modified through the PD process. So we find that those comments to also be satisfied by the satisfactory completion of the PD approval process, which I did include a letter here on that, and I can talk to that after the site plan if you'd like an update on that as well. But there are no remaining comments from city staff, public safety, city manager's office, or engineering to note as part of the site plan review. And then number 5 here is any commissions noted by the Planning Commission. We did discuss, and I think I didn't note it in my letter, Planning Commission did discuss asking the administration to follow up on the materials for Weld Street and the repair of welds or return of weld from, whether it be cuts to the concrete and then filling the concrete with concrete again, or restoring with a 1 or 2 inch level of asphalt to the street so it was a smooth surface. Planning Commission did ask for, that decision was deferred to the city engineer and the administration. but Planning Commission did ask for a report on that process. And when we were at the meeting last week, we did discuss that with the engineer. We did decide that it would be appropriate to consider those materials during the engineering and preparation of construction documents. And I would say for the purpose of the site plan approval, we believe that condition is met, noting that Planning Commission would ask for a report on that. I think from an engineering perspective, my understanding is that both materials would satisfy the need to return city infrastructure to a high quality, durable, usable material for the purpose of vehicular travel on the street. I don't know if Alex has any additional comments on that, but we discussed essentially deferring that to the engineering process. And if Planning Commission has any discussion on that, you could certainly ask for a report when that decision was made, although it could be several months before the engineers get to the point where they're preparing the specs for that part of the project. So I think for the purpose of site plan approval and monthly reports to Planning Commission, I would recommend you release that condition. And if you have any additional need for report, we can discuss that this evening.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Mr. Williams? If not, thank you, sir.
I would like to have a conversation with you afterwards, so you can give me some real understanding of the process that you refer to. I'm kind of
Well, I mean, for the purpose of Planning Commission, I can discuss it. I think that you're asking about like what happens after site plan approval in the engineering approval process.
yes.
I think that's a good question. Other planning commissioners might appreciate an answer to it. So,
Does this mean that the engineers will make the decision whether it's concrete or asphalt?
well, with the consult of Alex's department. So the decision would be deferred to Alex, who would have approval over that decision. Alex comes to your meetings monthly, and that's why I said if you want to discuss that material a little bit, you can provide the administration with some guidance on how they should make that decision. But it would mean that the engineer would make a recommendation as to whether or not the proposed material satisfactorily met engineering standards. So is it safe? Will it be durable? Will it last a long time? Will it be consistent with other materials that are used on city streets? And will it last? You know, I said that twice.
Would there be a cost analysis to go with that?
I mean, that would be something that you could request the administration look at. That, you know, what are the costs of the two treatments? And I think related to that is like a life cycle cost, right? So not just what the cost is now to the applicant, but how long will the different materials last, right?
Yeah.
So I think that would be, I actually don't think you would need to take a vote on it. I think that you could, if everyone agrees, you could just tell Alex you'd like a life cycle cost when they make that decision.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments of Mr. Lippens?
I'm not sure I answered the question about the engineering review. Yeah. So the site plan approval process involves ensuring that all of the dimensions and uses and other zoning regulations that are regulated by your city zoning ordinance are approved. And that approval falls under the purview of Planning Commission. There are, you know, detailed engineering sets, even architectural drawings that, you know, have things like all the subsurface, the pipe fittings, how those pipes are hooking up to the city's water system. Will the site drain, as they said on the plan? So, you know, if the parking lot is graded to, you know, sheet drain to one or two drains, which will then go to the city's sewer system or stormwater system. Is the grading appropriate? Will the water flow to the drains? That type of a review it's called the engineering review, right? So after the site plan approval, your city engineers will work with the engineers and architects of each development team who submits those plans to basically review all of those details in the plan sets to make sure they meet the city's engineering standards as well as any professional standards. Some of those plan sets might go to Marisa's department for the building code to look at the state's building codes and make sure that the architectural set meets the building code standards. So during that process, right, those types of reviews are typically signed by your professional staff. They do those as part of their professional duties in working for the city. Sometimes what happens is that the result of that is a change to the site plan. Maybe a building has to move. Maybe a parking space has to get eliminated. And when those types of changes happen in the site plan, there has to be a new site plan needs to be filed. And sometimes that plan would come back to Planning Commission. You might say, okay, this building, it's going to change. Now it's going to be 50 feet this way. So any details that result in a meaningful change of the site plan will, in some cases, can be approved administratively. Some cases has to come back to the Planning Commission for approval. But that's essentially what we're saying in this letter, is that there are some details here which likely will not result in any changes to the site plan. So the plan that you approved will remain in place, and then we're recommending it be handled through the engineering approval process. Does that make sense?
Clear, thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions?
Yes. I do have a question about the alley and the location of whatever utilities are there. What is it? It's probably drainage. Is there a water main there?
I have to recall the meeting, right? What I recall from the meeting was that there's pipes, so probably water and sewer, but there's infrastructure under AGARD.
Right, under AGARD I would expect, but you mentioned that it was under the alley, and I'm without a site plan in front of me and having it indicated, I'm not really sure where those pipes then would end up in the development. Are they between the yards in the public area? Are they to one side in somebody's yard?
It's AGAR that is referred.
So it's AGARD, not the alley.
It's vacated though,
Yeah.
right?
AGARD
Yeah.
is vacated, the alley, I don't know, the alley vacated too?
No, that's what he's referring to.
Right.
The alley is AGAR where it was vacated.
Yes.
But there was an alley at one point through that entire property going south,
Yes,
Yeah.
parallel to Pipestone.
And if there are utilities there, they would have to give an easement for those also.
And I mean, hopefully there are no water mains anywhere where there could be a problem.
Well, this is the purpose of me putting the condition in the letter, is that I hadn't heard much discussion about easements, and I knew that there probably would be easements that the city would want to request. So in lieu of having those placed on the site plan, which would be my preference for your review, we were able to have a discussion with the city engineer. The city engineer confirmed that the city would be requesting easements over any infrastructure really that the city has interest in having an easement on. And the applicant was willing to do it. I mean, there was no discussion about, oh, maybe we wouldn't. It was really, as the applicant has been during the entire process, extremely willing to meet any city requirement. And I think that from that discussion, what I took away from it is that your city engineer is in the best place to say which easements you want, and it was agreed to that those easements would be granted during the engineering approval process. And I guess, this meeting and the minutes of this meeting even are a documentation of the fact that that agreement was made, along with the letter and the report that we're providing today. So the process is being documented.
No questions? I'd like to thank you
Yeah.
for the update.
I would offer maybe more quickly than I gave that update, a brief update on the plan development process as well, because there was another letter I put for informational purposes in the packet. The plan development process was approved by City Commission, and during that process, you reviewed the plan development as well and passed it on to the City Commission. There were also conditions that were placed on the plan development. And mostly that was making sure that all the dimensional regulations that will now apply to the plan development were documented and that plan was consistent with the site plan. So largely what we were doing was permitting this applicant to go through two parallel processes to save a little bit of time and also make sure that both spoke to each other. The informational letter that I include in your packet also releases all the conditions that were put on that plan development. And your zoning ordinance allows for two processes for modifying a PD. One is an administrative process that grants the approval to the zoning administrator. The other is for more substantive changes. City Commission then has to approve substantive changes. In this case, we found that the changes to the PD plan were minor in nature. They were well within the authority that Maurice has as zoning administrator to approve the modified plan. And this letter here essentially is the staff review of that and confirms that the PD plan now will be the plan on record that reflects the zoning for the site. The dimensional information you need to have on record are included in that plan. And this letter recommends approval of the PD plan as well, administratively, as is permitted by the ordinance. So that's the update on the PD plan.
Chair,
Yes.
I have one little question. About these plans for, the shared or property owners close to us. Do they have information as what we're talking about here? Easement.
Mm-hmm.
Have they been notified? Have they had any conversation with the property owners that's adjacent to Project T as to, or are we required to?
I am aware that the developer did have a public meeting. I don't know if Commissioner Henry, you were able to attend.
Yeah, there was a public hearing, a meeting. But of course, when you start talking easement, if you don't understand it, it sounds shaky. So I wanna make sure that the owners of the adjacent property understand what's going on. Matter of fact, only one or two of them came to that meeting and the other ones didn't, so. Are we required to let them know about the easements and the different things that it's adjourning to their property?
So the reason why, oh yeah.
The easements don't really affect property owners. Basically, all that is giving, the city continuing to have the right to do whatever maintenance and whatnot is necessary to keep them there, unless they also, unless the city were to decide to move them somewhere. But it wouldn't, in any event, it wouldn't affect the adjoining property owners. They still will get water, if water's coming through there. They'll still get sewer if the city was coming through there. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
Is that to say that we don't need to notify them about this process?
There's no real need to.
Thank you, sir.
Any more questions? Okay, we'd like to thank you for this presentation.
Thank you.
At this time, we move on to commission comments. Do the commissioners have any comments you'd like to make? If not, I'll ask for a motion for adjournment.
I have a question.
Comment?
It's a comment, but it's also a question.
Vote.
Paul? is able to, about the updated draft of the master plan, including the changes that were requested at the previous planning commission meeting.
Yes, so there was one change that was requested. That change actually was made today, and I have a new draft of it, which will be posted as the commission adoption draft on the project website. And I was in communication with Alex last week, talking about potentially the idea of discussing the master plan at a Planning and Economic Development Committee meeting prior to placing it on the City Commission agenda. We're also working on a memo that outlines the changes that happened between the June draft and this draft, which would place in the commission packet as well. And it's my understanding that it's possible for that to be placed on the December 18th commission agenda, which I believe is the last commission meeting of the year.
When it comes up, will the planning commission be notified of the change? So, and the new link to the draft with the change?
Yeah. We're going to put it on the website and it'll go out in the city commission packet. I'm sure the clerk can also forward it to the entire plan commission.
Did I hear you say you're gonna put it in front of the commission on the 18th of December?
We want to try to do it for the 18th. That may require us to set an early planning and economic development committee meeting because of the Christmas holiday.
Is there a reason why is there a reason why it's being
That was the date,
expedited real fast?
that was a date that you asked for when you said not to put it on this one to allow time for people to read.
Okay, did we get it yet?
You should.
We got a
I
draft
think what
today,
he's saying right here now is that.
it's online.
Yeah.
Okay, and when do you think the people will get it online?
Well,
It'll be available to everybody.
I'm talking about the general people, not business people, not people, I'm talking about regular people. When do you think they're gonna get this final? After we approve it? And I'm speaking as a commissioner. After we approve it, do they get it?
They would have access to it both before and after, because unless. the
Now, I'm
changes-
only speaking about before, because after it's after the fact.
You're asking about notice. Will it be noticed? Spread to will the general public be notified? Is that the question?
I'm asking you, how would the general public get this information?
So
It's brand new, because we just got it.
But it isn't, there's nothing new about it except the deletion of that section.
yeah, and
I understand that. That doesn't answer my question, is how does the general public get this information now? That it's after the fact that the commission approves it, or before?
well, so that's the best answer I have is that the plan that you considered at the November 14th Plan Commission meeting, there was a public notice that went out in the paper, and that plan was included on the city's website for review. And that plan was updated since the June draft that has been up there since June. So the
Right.
plan has been out, and it doesn't. There are not that many changes. It's pretty much the same plan. And then at the Plan Commission meeting, you asked us to remove one section from that plan. That section, for record, as it's noted in your minutes, Plan Commission required to be removed from the plan, and the version of that plan that removes that section has not been posted yet. That's the one that I did today.
Okay.
We're going to post that on the project website and provide a link to this, the clerk to include in the packet. But there's no reason for us not to put that up immediately because it has Plan Commission's recommendation. You recommended approval of the plan minus that one section. We're going to put that out to the public, as soon as my graphic designer can post it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I just have to speak on my constituents. Harold Palladium quoted only 1% of the people in Benton Harbor buy their paper. So, we do have unique problem here with communication and how we get the information out. So there's another avenue for me to say, a newsletter given out to every household in Benton Harbor will let them know some of the things that is in this master plan, where they can read it at their leisure. So right now, we're falling through because the process doesn't work for the general population in Benton Harbor. It just doesn't work. So, thank you.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
I would like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Made by Commissioner Bell, supported by Commissioner Henry. Call the roll, please, to adjourn.
Commissioner Marshall,
Yes.
Commissioner Yarborough, Manager Mitchell, yes. Mayor Mohammed, Commissioner Archibald,
Yes.
Commissioner Bell,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Hensel,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right.
Hey, Lord.
Yeah.